right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to day 4 of our Secret Path Week events. As we gather today, we are reminded that throughout Canada, we are situated on Indigenous lands, both ceded treaty land and unceded land. This land is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people today. As a country, we have a responsibility for the stewardship of the land on which we live and work. So today I acknowledge the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the neutral people on whose territory I am broadcasting from today. So my name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. I run an organization called Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. We connect classrooms across North America with scientists, adventurers, explorers, and conservationists for live virtual events, guest speakers, virtual field trips. Each month, you can find up to 40, 50, even 60 live events for classrooms to join. So head over to exploringbytheseat.com if you've never visited us before. This is our 3rd year collaborating with the Gore Downey and Chanie Wenjack Fund to bring Indigenous leaders, artists, and scientists live to classrooms across Canada. We have an incredible week on the go with 20 live events, including musical performances, language lessons, storytelling, and so much more. The Gore Downey and Chanie Wenjack Fund is part of Gore Downey's legacy and embodies his commitment and that of both the Downey and Wenjack families to build cultural understanding and create a pathway towards reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. The goal of the Downey Wenjack Fund is to continue the conversation that began with Chanie Wenjack's residential school story and to support the reconciliation process through awareness, education, and action. Now, many of the classrooms joining us live today are already doing something as Legacy Schools. If you've never heard of this program, the Legacy Schools program is a free national initiative to engage, empower, and connect students and educators to further reconciliation through awareness, education, and action. So take a moment to visit downeywenjack.ca. You can find all the information you need there to become a legacy school and start the process of reconciliation in your classrooms, your homes, and in your community. All right. Well, this has been a great day today. Lots of live events connecting with amazing people, amazing classrooms, and we have one more event to wrap up day 4. I'm really excited to introduce everybody to Lucia Laford. She is an Anishinaabe and Irish artist from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Lucia paints in a woodland style that has been passed down to her by her father. She has a spiritual connection to her work, and that has been established through her own healing path. So she's a passionate Indigenous arts educator and loves working with youth and First Nation communities. She's also on a lifelong journey of reclaiming her culture and learning. So let's bring Lucia in with us right now. Hey, Lucia, how we doing?
Good, Ani, bonjour. How's everybody doing?
Amazing. Well, we're so excited to have you live with us today. Classrooms are already saying hi via the YouTube chat, so keep introducing yourself there. We've got some great camera classrooms joining us as well. We're excited to get to know you a little bit better today, and I'm going to turn things over to you and let you take over for a little bit.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. If you could start my PowerPoint in about a minute, that would be awesome. So my name is Lucia Laford, and I'm a Woodland style artist, and I live in Sault Ste. Marie. So I just wanted to start with traditional greeting. So I'm trying to learn my language, and I feel it's best to speak the language as much as possible. So Waawaaskone Kwe Anishinaabe, Waawaaskone Kwe, and that just means, hey, my name is Waawaaskone Kwe, which means lightning woman or bringer of light woman. I'm from Sault Ste. Marie, and I'm Bear Clan. So if you just want to pull up the presentation. Okay, awesome. So I have been doing woodland style art for the last 5 years. I was really lucky because my father is a really famous Indigenous woodland style artist, and he has had an incredible 55-year career. So growing up, I got to learn the style, I got to learn how to paint, I got to learn, how to draw, all these amazing things. So I'll show you the pieces that you see on the screen right there. I'll talk a little bit about them. But I just wanted to point out that there's the language right there. So we have Lucia Laford Anishinaabe. And Anishinaabe is my name is. Below that is my spiritual name, Waawaaskone Kwe. And again, that's bringer of light or lightning woman. And then below that is Bawading Ndunjaba. And Bawading is the traditional name for Sault Ste. Marie. And Ndunjaba is where you're from. So I'll just talk about these pieces really quickly. The one in the top corner where there's me standing next to a painting, that one was really amazing. I talked about, watching my father paint my whole life. But people talk a lot about intergenerational trauma, and that's where trauma from the past, residential schools, the 60s school, Indian day school, it trickles down and affects further generations. Well, that exhibition was really cool because my dad had paintings at the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto, and I was asked to come do a live painting. So instead of intergenerational trauma, I thought about it as intergenerational healing. Me and my dad get to do this journey together of art. Some other pieces that we have there, there's a thunderbird below Ani, which means hello. Ani Bojo means hello. So below the word Ani, there's a thunderbird. And each of these paintings has a big, long story. I won't get into that today, but that's what I want you guys to know about Woodland style art. It's bright, it's expressive, it has so much rich history. And Woodland style art, almost every piece that you see comes with, a teaching or a story. So beside that, there's a turtle painting, and the turtle is an amazing animal, and it has so much teachings for us. And then beside that, there's the tree with the 7 grandfather teachings, and a crane and a muskrat. And again, each of these animals has their own significance. Below that, the piece in the bottom right corner, the pink and blue and yellow piece, that one I had done for a subway, and the TTC in Toronto. It was up at College Station. It's this really big mural. And I was really proud of that one because the woodland style on the right, the yellow piece, that's like a traditional woodland style. There's woodland style animals, which are, the turtles, the fish. And in the middle, there's 8 turtles, and they are the native species of turtle in Ontario. But on the left of that, the pink and blue one, that one was all the animals that people don't want to think about. There's cockroach, there's a raccoon, there's a pigeon, there's a seagull. But those animals are important too, and I just wanted to showcase that in that painting. Before we begin into I'm going to show you a video of an art project that I just did with the Downing One Jack Fund. But before we get into that, I just want to play a water song. So this is my drum. Oops. This is my drumstick, and it's been raining here a lot in Sault Ste. Marie. And this song is to honor the water. So it's really simple, and I'm just going to sing 1 or 2 verses of it. But the first verse, it's divided into 2 parts. There's a really quiet part, and that mimics the still waters, of a river or a lake. And then the second part is louder, and that mimics the rapids, if you were going down the rapids in a canoe or something. So I'm just going to sing 1 verse right now. Wichita do ya do ya do ya, Wichita do ya do ya hey, Wichita ne ya hey ya hey ya, Wichita ne ya hey ya hey. So that's 1 verse of that song. And again, I just feel like it's really important to honor, the changes. We're going from summer into fall, and it's raining a lot right now, and that water is so important. You hear people talk about water is life. And it really is. So now I just want to go into the video. If you could play that, Joe, that would be awesome.
Ojibwe Kwe Ndao. I am an Ojibwe woman. We agim gibemunik minwa kitaji winik. Wajayin minwa peska bunik. The snowshoe carries me and brings us where we have to go. Ge'e nabshkanawa, bamazuin mampi a king. Wa agim awe mingo yuzuin, tibishko gibamadzunina. They also represent our life here on Earth. The snowshoe is a gift, just like our life. Gibin and danzmin, oje da watagung nikia. Mi jinda enjibindigish kamang a king. We are birthed through the tail of the snowshoe. This is where we enter the Earth. Manda sababin san getchijig gekandamuin. Mi mandami kan gan gudmogoying. The strings represent our elders' knowledge. This is the path they left us.
Okay, awesome. So there's the video that was just released a couple days ago by the Downey Wenjack Fund for the Reconciliation Begins With You piece. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. I'll break it down further, but just right off the bat, I'm super proud of the language. So language has been taken away in Canada, you know, all the hundreds of different types of languages, and you know, mine is Anishinaabemowin. My father speaks Anishinaabemowin, but because of the trauma that he had went through, he had been a part of the 60s Scoop and Indian Day School. He didn't really want to teach me that, you know. I don't know why, other than maybe there was shame. Maybe he didn't want me to know that, you know, because, you know, he had been told his whole life, don't speak Anishinaabe, that's bad, that's bad. So now, for myself, I have to learn to speak it on my own, you know. So this project came about where I was talking with a knowledge keeper and Anishinaabemowin speaker, Isaac Murdoch. And we got on a call together and we were talking about reconciliation, what it means to us. And, you know, I had said to him, I really want part of the video to be in Anishinaabemowin because I'm learning to speak it, but I think it's so important to acknowledge that our language has been here, you know, for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, you know, and it's the original language of the land. So Isaac Murdoch was amazing. And he passed this teaching on to me about the snowshoes and their importance. Because, you know, as we talk about reconciliation, he talked about how the snowshoes, they bring us forward in the snow, you know, and each part of the snowshoe is so important. So he gave me basically the script in Anishinaabemowin, and he spent, you know, weeks helping me get through all those really big words. And it was just an incredible experience, you know. So now if we could move on to the next slide. For this video, I had actually painted 5 pieces, you know, on a wood board, and I had given them to the animator, and then they just went to town. It was amazing to see the animation. They really brought it to life. But here's the first one. So this first piece belongs with the phrase, I'm an Ojibwe woman. And there's a photo of me on the top left corner, and that's me in my ribbon skirt. And that was really my inspiration for painting this one because I wanted to be like, yes, I am here. I am a strong Ojibwe woman. And again, like I told you guys in the beginning, my name is Waawaaskone Kwe, which means lightning woman, and that's where we have the lightning coming in on the left side. Also, below the picture of me, you'll see my process. So the middle picture right there is actually it just being sketched out. And then below that, you can see the paint is being added on. So for my process, and I'll talk a little bit about it later, but I just keep adding layers and layers and layers and layers until it's all painted. And then I put the black lines on it to really make everything pop. So if we can go to the next one. This is the second one, and it belongs with the phrase, the snowshoe carries me and brings us where we have to go. So Isaac Murdoch had talked a lot about the snowshoe being a lodge. And there's so much about lodges. So I'll just say that they're places of teaching and healing. So in this picture, we have a central figure, whether it's a man or a woman, and it's holding onto the snowshoe, and it's also holding on to a lodge up above. So just so you guys can get an idea, the top left, there's a picture of a lodge that I helped build this summer. That one's on a 100-foot teaching lodge, so it's huge. But if you look at the photo, you know, you see the round curved arc, and you see all the saplings going up. And that was my inspiration on how to paint that lodge. And again, on the bottom, you know, I just wanted to show you guys my process. You know, the middle one has just a little bit of paint on it, and you know, I keep building it and building it. So this is a good painting to really talk about Woodland style art because there's the circles all around the painting, and the circles you'll notice a really thick black line. You know, that's kind of curving in and connecting everything. When I was younger, my dad told me, well, those are connection lines. You know, those are showing that everything in creation, you know, all the trees, all the leaves, all the grass, all the plants, they're all connected. So when you're looking at woodland art, you'll see a lot of those lines, and you'll see how everything is connected. And in this piece, you know, it starts at the lodge, and it just keeps going down, and everything is connected in that piece. So move on to the next one. Okay, this one is, they also represent our life here on Earth. The snowshoe is a gift, just like our life. So I don't know if you guys know, but a lot of Indigenous people will call North America, or the land that we're on, Turtle Island. And so what I painted here was a turtle in space. You know, people say we're on Turtle Island, so I drew figures, 4 figures on top of the turtle. And that's kind of representing us on Earth, on North America, on our traditional land, our traditional territories. And in the turtle's back, I have painted the foods that my people traditionally ate. There's wild rice, strawberries, blueberries, and fish. And those were all really staples in our diet, you know. And these people above the turtle are holding up the snowshoe, and that's, to me, representing the snowshoe as a gift. And again, we have the process work on the side. Move on to the next one. Okay, yeah, this one is, we are birthed through the tail of the snowshoe. This is where we enter the earth. So for this piece, there's a woman figure, and she has, again, a lodge, kind of where her stomach or womb would be. And the lodge, in a lot of teachings, is thought of as Mother Earth's womb. So we have the lodge on one side, and then the roots of the earth on the other side. And then the snowshoes are connected, and, you know, that's the, we are birthed through the tail of the snowshoe. We'll go on to the next one. This is the last one, and it goes with the phrase that the strings represent our elders' knowledge. This is the path they left us. So in the middle there, I wanted to show you what traditional Ojibwe snowshoes look like. You know, so that's where I got my inspiration for the snowshoes that are in my paintings. So for this one, what really inspired me was the strings. Everything the strings on the snowshoe hold. So on the one side, we have food security. We have all that traditional food, the wild rice, the strawberries, the blueberries on one side. You know, that's the path, one of the paths forward for us is, you know, eating traditional food, getting healthy again. And then on the right, there's 2 pipe carriers, and then there's manadoos or spirits. And those spirits are the little Bejo up at the top, he's brown up there. And then a little, a thunderbird below that. And those strings are just, to me, they're showing, you know, we have to listen to the spirits, they're gonna guide us. And then we have to listen to the ceremonies. We have to keep doing ceremonies, reclaim our ceremonies. So those 5 pieces, again, were painted, and then they were handed over to the animators, and that's how they made that beautiful video. You know, I'm blown away that they brought such life to my paintings, the movement. So we'll just move on to the next slide. Okay, so this one, because I'm a Woodland style artist, and I'm also an Indigenous Arts Educator down in Toronto, I just wanted to show you guys some of the processes that I go through. So the top, there's processes of how I teach kids how to draw florals. And we start with the most basic of shapes. We keep adding detail, adding detail, adding detail, adding detail, until you finally get to a full floral piece, you know, and they can look really complicated, but when you break it down like that, anybody can draw florals. Below that is a mural that I had painted with my dad, so the second line in the middle of photos. That's a mural I had painted with my father, and I just wanted to show you guys, because this mural is huge, it's ginormous. But so for these photos, he had started with a sketch, probably about the size of this, you know, and we had to translate that to giant mural canvases, you know. So it's such a fun part of being an artist, you know, taking that little tiny sketch you have and then blowing it up, making it really big. So that was the process for that one. And then the last one I just wanted to show because I think it's a good example of how in my art practice I layer things. So that's a canoe paddle that I had done for the Canoe Foundation. And it was supposed to be about environmentalism. And, you know, I talked about turtles. They have so many teachings. So I had done turtles on the canoe paddle. And, you know, then there you can see in the photos, you can just see the layers that I keep adding and adding and adding until you get to the black lines at the end. So we'll just move on from there. Okay, so for the last little bit of the presentation, I just wanted to talk about how my journey as an artist parallels my journey through culture and language. So what I wanted to show you guys are these photos of some of the cultural activities I've done in the last year and how much they've helped me become a better artist. And how my art, you know, I went from doing woodland style, you know, because that's what my dad taught me, to really being involved in woodland style, feeling that spiritual connection to what I paint, you know, and getting so many ideas now. And these ideas come from ceremonies. So just in this photo, I just briefly, I built a lodge this summer, a teaching lodge this summer. I've been a part of a drum circle with women, and The photos on the top left are us drumming at City Hall for Orange Shirt Day. I went into a big Voyager canoe and canoed on Lake Superior. In the bottom right corner, there's a picture of me and my father, and we had gone pipestone hunting, and that just all these things are really incredible, and all these things have really helped me, you know. And some people wouldn't think, oh, doing these things, what does that have to do with your art? Well, for me, it's like they go absolutely hand in hand. So if we go to the next slide. Okay, so, I just wanted to touch briefly, again, exactly what I'm talking about with the photos, but here's some words that we can say together. Some just really simple ones. So, miigwech is thank you. This one is one of my favorites. The next one is one of my favorites. Guan tonkamik. Guan tonkamik. That means awesome, or like you're awesome. Guan tonkamik. The next one below that really encompasses my journey with language, culture, and art. And that's Anishinaabemowin. And that really is the good life. And I had some struggles when I was younger, but the Anishinaabemowin, the art, culture, and language together, that has really helped me go on that path of, my good life. So I just wanted to stress again that all three of these things are super connected for me, which also means that, I have to be willing to make mistakes, because the language sometimes is hard with words that are super long, and it's hard to get your mouth around those. That also means being patient with myself, because this can be a really hard and emotional process, because I'm learning all these new things, that I hadn't learned when I was younger. And now sometimes I want to learn it all at once. I want to go, okay, teach me like 10 drum songs right now, or let's do this and let's do this. And I just have to, be patient, and things will come when it's ready. And lastly, I just wanted to talk about being grateful on this slide, being grateful for the opportunities that I've had with my family, the elders that have helped me out, and my community that has really helped me out, and it's been an incredible journey. So we'll finish with the last slide. Yeah, there we go. What reconciliation means to me. So, I know that these may be big terms like decolonize and reconciliation, but to me, all decolonizing is recognizing, regaining, and reclaiming. We have to recognize that there are injustices. We have to recognize that there are inequalities. Then we have to regain, our sense of identity, because all these things were stripped away from us. We have to regain that identity. We have to regain that language, that, that cultural learning. And then the last part, I think, would be that we have to reclaim that Indigenous knowledge and ways of life are just as important, as Western ways of life, and I don't think we're quite there yet, but we got to keep going. So for me, we have to keep working on this decolonization, and that will help us on our path forward to reconciliation. Because reconciliation for me is healing, you know what I mean? And I don't think that we, can work on healing a lot, if there's still so many wounds that are open, you know what I mean? So that leads us to reconciliation, as Gord Downey said, and in the Downey Wenjack, do something. So I want to end with some things that you guys can do. So number one, educate yourself about Indigenous people and our cultures. Ask your teachers. I know when I was growing up in high school, there was like one day on Indigenous people, and that's not right, because we're on Indigenous land. Everybody in Canada is all on Indigenous land, and it's our duty to learn. Learn about these people, my people that have been here for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. The next one's pretty easy too, support Indigenous artists, business, communities, events. There's lots in communities, just go out and enjoy an event, The next one, stand up to racism. I have a community member, and he's in high school, and he has these long braids, and he got teased for years. And our hair to us is sacred. And it's so disappointing that, people would tease a young man or a young boy for having long hair. So stand up for that when you see that, if you see that. Hopefully not, but if you do, stand up to that and say, hey, that's not right. Don't do that. Oh, here's another one. You can learn about the traditional territory you're on. So Joe did a land acknowledgement about that he's on the Anishinaabe, the Mississauga, and the Haudenosaunee territory. Well, wherever you are in Canada, like I'm saying, you're on the land of people, right? So learn. So I'm in Sault Ste. Marie, and this is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, okay? You can even learn what treaty you're on. So the treaty that I'm on is the Robinson-Huron Treaty. And you can get more into that, but it's a stepping stone to learn more. The last thing I would talk about is protecting the land and looking to Indigenous leaders for guidance. Protecting the land can be as simple as picking up garbage, or if you want to be more involved, if you're lucky enough to have a garden at your house, plant non-invasive species. Plant plants that have been here for thousands of years, and that'll really help the ecosystem. And I would just say, if you want to get more involved, ask Indigenous leaders in your community how you can be involved. Maybe there's marches or walks or protests. The last thing is that there's a photo on this slide of this amazing family that cycled all the way from Manitoba to Ottawa to talk to the Prime Minister about all the remains of the children that were found. So that's a really big reconciliation. They upended their lives for about 2 months. So I just wanted to showcase them. It's called Honoring Our Children's Journey. And they were really amazing people, and they stopped in Sault Ste. Marie. We got to talk to them, and they were on this big bike journey. But if you can't do something as big as that, just do something small, and that's awesome. We all start somewhere. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate that.
All right, Lucia, thank you so much for sharing with us today. Amazing pieces of art that you're creating, and thank you for sharing some of your journey with us as you kind of rediscover and reclaim some of your culture and your past. And it's so great to see you doing some of that work with your father, and he's able to kind of pass on that woodland style art, which is really great. All right, well, let's start meeting some of our classrooms. So if you're tuning in via YouTube, use that side chat to send us in some questions. And we're gonna work some of those in with us now. In fact, I'm just looking at a comment here from Mrs. Farr. Her class is joining us. They're saying your art is beautiful. And they're very inspired by checking that art out today. So very cool. Okay, let's bring in a classroom. Let's go to, why can't I see the class I wanted to go to? There they are. In Milton, Ontario, some grade 8s with Miss Burns. Let's bring them into the call here. Hey, grade 8s, how are we doing today?
Good.
Awesome.
Go that way. The question that we have is, how long, did you get any formal training in your art other than your father, or, and how long have you been doing your art for?
Okay, so I'm 25, and I ended up going to university for psychology and biology, which is completely different than art. But I've been doing art, since I was in high school, and I was exploring the Woodland style that my father, was teaching me. And then when I was going to university, I met all these amazing artists and people, and that's when I started to blossom as a Woodland style artist. So I'd say I've been doing Woodland style art for the last, for probably 6 years. I've been doing an Indigenous art education for the last 3 or 4 years. But have I had any formal training? No, not really, other than learning from my dad. No, not really.
All right, that's great. And I mean, how could you find a better teacher, right? Very cool. Grade 5s are joining us in Calgary, Alberta, and they want to know, we saw those beautiful 5 pieces you showed us. How much time would one of those take, from the sketching to the layering to finally the black lines?
Well, okay, I'm a little bit of a procrastinator, so I had lots of time to do this project. But when it really came down to it, I had probably sketched the designs in, let's say, one or 2 nights. I had just sat down and I just started sketching and sketching and sketching. Here, I'll even give you another example. I just got commissioned to do another piece for another organization. And I had started with a really simple sketch like this. It was for geese. And then as I went through the course of the night, because I like to work at night, I had come to almost a complete sketch. Oops. There we go, of geese. And that'll be painted in the same style that those other paintings are in. So sketching 1 to 2 days, and then the painting, because I was on a time crunch, I painted those 5 pieces in about a week and a half, which was me working like 8 hours every day for about, about 12 days. Yeah, roughly. I should have spaced it out more, but I didn't, so it was a rough week and a half to get all those done, but it was awesome.
All right, very cool. I'm sure many of the students in our classrooms can relate to procrastination. No question. Miss Padberg's sixth graders are joining us. Let's bring them into the conversation. How are we doing, sixth grade?
What's up, bro?
All right, looks like someone's got a question for us.
Why is the snowshoe so important to the culture?
She asked, why is the snowshoe so important?
Okay, yeah, awesome. So Isaac Murdoch had given me this, and he's a really famous artist, and he'd given me this giant, long, 25-minute teaching about the snowshoe, and it was all in Anishinaabemowin, so it was in a language that I don't really understand. So then when we broke it down, he started talking about, okay, so we have to go out, find the wood. I mean, this would be back, a long time ago, where you couldn't just go to the store and buy things. So you'd have to go out, get the wood, you'd have to go out and get the strings, there weren't just strings available, so you had to make them from roots or from sinew, and that's a long process in itself. So he talked about making these amazing things and how long it took to make them. And then he talks about how they carry us in the winter over the land, and how it's possible for us to walk in, 10 feet of snow without sinking all the way to the bottom, because, they distribute our weight evenly. He talked about also how the snowshoes are really similar to lodges, and a lodge is a place of teaching and healing. So, there's sweat lodges, and that's where you go into, the rocks are heated up, and then you put water on them, and then there's steam, and the heat is supposed to help you and, connect you closer to your ancestors and, healing. And then there's a teaching lodge, like one of the ones I showed you, and those are huge, and that's where you have ceremonies. So he said that the snowshoes are similar to that. And he talked about, how they're built, and how lodges for teaching, are the same as snowshoes, because of when they're carrying us, they bring us to where we have to go. If we have to go get food, if we have to go, move stuff around, that's what we use. And the last thing, as one of the paintings was about the strings. He talked about all the knowledge held in the strings, and how when you really open up one of those strings that's in a snowshoe, it's super long, and it holds all that information in it. I hope that answers your question.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. So let's see here. We've got another question here coming in via the chat. This is from Gia, who's tuning in with us. And Gia would like to know the nation's capital, so it must be Ottawa. And they would like to know about the places you've painted. How many different places do you think you've painted?
Well, I painted mostly in Toronto and Sault Ste. Marie, but in those two cities, I have painted so many places. But lots of galleries, at universities. Because I'm also an Indigenous Arts Educator. Well, it's been difficult the last 2 years because everything has been over Zoom, But if it wasn't over Zoom, I'd be going to classrooms, I'd be going to schools, I'd be, going to events or powwows and painting. One cool project that I had done was at this huge Fort York powwow, which is in Toronto. We had set up these huge mural boards, and instead of me painting, we had kind of set it up. We had drawn circles all over the big mural, and we had paint, and kids could come and they could paint their own flower in that little circle. And that was just, it was really cool. So I painted all over, but I'd say my favorite place to paint is probably outside. Just sketching outside, going for walks and sketching flowers and turn them into native florals, that's probably my favorite.
All right. I can see Miss Padberg's class has typed in a couple more questions, so let's see if they want to ask one of them live.
We were wondering about how cold it gets up in Canada, because in Kansas City we don't get a whole lot of snow, and we imagine a snowshoe that you might get a lot more colder temperatures up there.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Well, okay, in Toronto, where it's some of the time of the year, there's like no snow. I mean, a little bit. It's kind of cold, but maybe this much snow. But up here in Sault Ste. Marie, you know, there can be 6 feet of snow, and it's nice out right now, and the leaves are beautiful. They're outside my window. I'm seeing yellow and oranges and golds. But a few hours north of here, they got their first snow. And that's going to build up really quickly. So usually we have white Christmases every year. But sometimes there's not a lot of snow, and sometimes there's 10 feet of snow. So it can get really cold.
All right. Ms. Burns' class, the grade 8s, they have another question for us. Let's bring them in.
Oh, do you want to come over next? Sure. Okay, come on, Abby.
So, okay.
She's coming over.
Can I just
Yeah.
here?
There you go.
Okay, that works. So I have a question regarding the color choice in your paintings. Do the colors hold any meaning, or is it kind of just what you feel like painting with?
Okay, yeah. So for me, colors do have meaning, but maybe sometimes not necessarily even what I can explain. It's more meaning of, I'll think of one specific element, like maybe, sorry, that's the phone. I'm just gonna turn that off, sorry. So for me, maybe I'll see one color, maybe I'll see the circles, the power circles in the painting. Usually there's a bunch of those circles. I'll see it as one color. And then the rest of the colors will just flow. When I was younger, the color palettes were a lot harder. I'd have to take my paints and plan out what every single element is going to be. And I was always amazed at my dad, because he'd be like, oh, just take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, a little bit of that. And it would turn out like this amazing, everything worked together. And, I didn't really have that at the beginning. But sometimes it's also how I feel that first painting of me standing like this, going, I'm an Ojibwe woman. The background is blue, and, women are really close to water. Water, we're the keepers of water. So the background is blue because that's what I was thinking of, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, we've got a question from Fernie, British Columbia. Miss Lee's class is hanging out with us, and they'd like to know, a two-parter here. Is there a favorite subject or thing to paint? And your necklace, does it have a special meaning?
Oh yeah, I was gonna show, so I also do beading. So I had beaded this necklace. It was one of the first things that I had beaded, and these colors are the colors that I was given. Sometimes Indigenous people can be given their names, their clan, and their colors, and the colors are, will stick with you your whole life. And I wanted to show also this feather that I had beaded. Yeah, so those are important to me. Beading is a really important aspect of, being Indigenous, especially when you bead your regalia, and regalia is, ceremonial clothing that you would have. Sorry, Joe, what was the first part of the question?
Is there a subject? I know we saw turtles earlier. Is there a subject or something you really like to enjoy painting?
So when I first started out, it was a lot of animals. Those were the most fun to paint, because in Woodland style there's this thing called X-ray vision, and actually the sketch showcases X-ray vision, which really just means that you can see kind of what's in the animal. We're not painting the outside fur, we're not painting the outside of the animal. We look really what's in the animal, and that can be as simple as, what has the animal eaten that day, or is the animal pregnant, or does it have another spirit inside of it? So for this drawing, there's actually, this is the big goose here, and then inside right here, there's, eggs of the smaller geese, and that's just one interpretation. So right now, my favorite thing to draw or paint is any ceremonies that I come back from. So anytime I come back from a ceremony, I'm sketching right away. I'm thinking, what did I see? How did I feel? There's this amazing ceremony that I went to about a month ago, and it was called a shake tent ceremony, and it's amazing. So when I came back from the shake tent, I had received some knowledge from the shake tent medicine person, and I made a painting of that. So right now it's really whatever is happening in my life. But animals are definitely, animals are definitely probably.
All right. Well, Lucia, I think a great question to kind of end off on today is for young students who are tuning in. What advice would you give a young student who wants to pursue art?
Just keep going. Just keep creating. Don't ever stop. Sometimes when I teach classes, you see some of the participants will just keep erasing everything that they draw. Oh, that line is a little too crooked that way. Got to erase it and redo it. Instead of doing that, maybe just keep drawing. Just keep going. One thing with Indigenous Woodland style art is that, if paint happens to fall on your painting, maybe paint was supposed to be there. If you're meaning to draw the line nice and curvy like this, but you accidentally add a little, jagged edge to it, maybe it was supposed to be like that. So when I'm teaching my classes, I'd say, don't be afraid of making mistakes. Just keep drawing. Also, one other tip, some people get really nervous for other people to see their art. Well, maybe when you're first drawing, just draw for yourself. Keep a private sketchbook that you can just feel completely free to draw whatever you want to draw without having to be like, look, here's what I drew, and feel, the judgment of people. And then when you're ready, you can show everything to everybody. A practical tip that I would say that a lot of artists, heed to is practice drawing every day and practice drawing simple shapes every day. When I was a kid, my dad used to make me draw circles over and over and over and over and over and over again. So that way I could draw like a just perfect circle. If I draw a circle right now, it'll come out pretty circular. So just keep practicing all your techniques and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
All right. Excellent. I love that last little piece. Don't be afraid to make those mistakes. There's beauty in a failure. You can learn a lot from it, or it might add something, an element to that art that, like you said, maybe it was meant to be there. All right. Well, let's start off with a big shout out to our YouTube crew joining us today. Thank you for sending in so many great questions in the chat. A big shout out to our camera classrooms. Thank you for taking some time to be with us today. And Lucia, thank you for taking us into the world of woodland style art and a little peek into your path as well. It was great to have you with us today, Lucia.
Thank you, miigwech. Miigwech means thank you, or chimigwech means big thank you. So I'll say big thank you, guys. I really appreciated being here with you and sharing my journey. Keep doing art. That's what I would say. Keep doing art.
All right. Well, thanks to everybody for joining us on day 4 of our Secret Path Week events. One more day to go tomorrow. So do visit the site, exploremyseat.com/secret-path-week, or you can find it under the special events section. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of the day. Lucia, thank you so much, and hopefully we'll connect again soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.